Hey everybody, it's Candy, aka Brown Eyed Girl 69. Well, today is March 29th, 2025. Today has been 30 years since I met my daughter's dad. His name was Don Jennen, Jennen. My daughter's name is Kelsi Jennen. I'm Candy Anderson. I never officially married Kelsi's dad. We met on March 28th of 1995, and we went out on our first date March 29th of 1995. And we were moving into our first apartment together April 26th of 1995. 3 days shy of us being together a month. In the first month of us meeting and getting together and realizing that we were going to try this thing out as a couple, we went to Oklahoma. We were living in Dallas, Texas, actually, at the time this all took place. I was living in Dallas, Texas. I'd moved to Dallas in January 94, and this was in March of 95. So I was 25, almost 26 years old. For Easter that year, me and him came back up here to Oklahoma to visit my friend Tina. She had just had her first son. He was born March 15th, I think. March 15th of 95. Wow, he just turned 30. Yeah, so we came up here to visit with my friend Tina, her husband, their new baby boy. And then we went and got us a hotel room in Oklahoma City. I took him around to some of my old hangouts where I'd hung out 10 years prior, in my early 20s, places I partied and places I'd lived, and et cetera, et cetera. Came home, and I think it was 2 days later is when the Oklahoma City Federal Building got blown up. All sorts of things happened just around that. I could make a video talking about everything that happened to Dawn and I during that time. Before and shortly thereafter, within probably anywhere from 7 to 10 days after. I've got a story related to it. Don't know how it all fits together, but somehow, some way it does. It would also prove some things that people are speculating about nowadays. But anyway. So we did that, and we came back to Dallas, and then like I said, within a couple of weeks after we came back, we were moving to our first apartment together. I got to share 7 years, 7 months, and 1 day with Kelsi's dad. We met on March 28th. We went out on March 29th, and he was passing away on October 30th of 2002. So from basically March of 95 until October 2002 is how long he was in my life. We had a lot of ups and downs in our relationship. I believe a lot of tests, Early on in the beginning, I knew I wanted him to be the father of my children. We got engaged in May of 95. He actually came up to my job and proposed to me at my job. Put the ring on my finger and everything at my job. So then he was officially my fiance versus just my boyfriend. And that's all he ever was my fiance. We never got legally married. Don was the man that came into my life to give me the child that I have. And to give me a few lessons, you know. But, he wasn't a bad man, you know, by any means, but he didn't treat me as good as he could have. And I'm not going to sit here and put all the blame off on him. Why things went the way they went in our relationship. I had a lot to do with things too. You know, I'm going to take the responsibility and say that I wasn't always the nicest person either in the relationship. And I abused him in certain ways. I think that comes from being abused. My first husband mentally and emotionally abused me. Didn't ever physically try to hit me. If he did, I would have kicked his butt. So whenever I got with Kelsi's dad, I wasn't looking for somebody that was controlling. And Don definitely wasn't a control freak at all. Even though in some ways I think he was. When he first started pursuing me, when we first started going out. But I'd never had a man chase me, so I just kind of took it as it is. And went at it like that. But I'm going to post a couple of pictures of Dawn. I'll probably post some in the community tab of what he and I looked like together way back when. He was 12 years older than I was. He was born on August 27th of 1957. I always went for older guys. I know that had a lot of things to do with my daddy issues, you know. I always went for older men. Probably, you know, there's many reasons why I was probably always attracted to older men. But my parents were 36 years older than me. So I was always raised around really mature people because my aunts and uncles were older. Some of my cousins were older. The general cousins that I was raised around the majority of my life, on my mom's side of the family, I had 2 older boy cousins, then there was me, and then there was a younger girl and a younger boy. 5 of us. And the 2 boys that were the oldest boys, they were 4 and 5 years older than me. So, and then my one cousin, she was a year younger than me, and then my other boy cousin was like 2 years younger than me. And then on my dad's side of the family, he had a bigger family, and I had all sorts of cousins on that side of the family. But the majority of the cousins that were around my age on my dad's side of the family was, I had one girl cousin, she was 5 years older than me. I had a boy cousin, he was 7 years older than me, Carrie and Terry. And then I had my cousin Paul, Tika, and Shauna. And I think that was pretty much my only cousins that I really got to see a lot of that were the closest to my age on both sides of the family. So I think that's why I always flocked to older people. By the time I was a teenager, I tried to, go out with boys my own age. But they were just too immature for me. And even the boys that I tried to date that were like 2 to 3 years older than me, like when I was in 7th grade, I tried to date a boy that was a freshman in high school. Then when I was in 8th grade, my boyfriend was a sophomore. I was in 8th grade. Then my freshman year in high school, I was going for boys that were usually around my own age, freshman, sophomore. Sophomore year, I crushed on a couple of seniors. My freshman year, I crushed on a senior too. So I was always interested in the boys that were a year, 2, 3 years older than me. By the time I got to be the age of 16 to 17, I was interested in boys that were more like 3 to 6 years older than me. Any boys that were fresh and new in college to being just freshly out of college. So I never really dated anybody my own age. And then when I was 18, my first husband was 29. And then when I met Dawn, that's who we're talking about, Dawn, I was 25 and he was 37. When Kelsi was born, I was 29, he was 41. And then when Dawn passed away, he was 45 and I was 33. He had a heart attack in December of 2001. He woke up in the middle of the night, one night, couldn't breathe. And at this point in time in our relationship, he was living in Oklahoma City and I was living here in Purcell. Me and Kelsi were here in Purcell and he was in Oklahoma City. He said he woke up this one night, it felt like he could barely breathe. He said it felt like there was an elephant sitting on his chest, literally. He said there was just so much weight on his chest and he could barely breathe. So he and his roommate was at work because he worked overnights. And so he called another female friend of his to come over and take him to the hospital. So she did. She lived like maybe 10, 15 minutes down the road. I was very grateful for her at that point in time. Because I was about an hour away from him. Anyways, so she takes him to the hospital. He's in the ER. He's basically telling him that he can't breathe, but he wasn't really experiencing any kind of pain, I guess. Any other kind of effects of what was happening, He didn't think he was having a heart attack. He just couldn't breathe. And when they hooked him up to the EKG, that's when they realized he was having a heart attack. And they wheeled him emergency surgery immediately. And while he was on the table, they lost him 3 times. They shocked him back to life 3 times. He had major blockage in his heart. They had to do what do they call it? Angioplasty, where they put like a balloon in a couple of his arteries in his heart to keep him open. He was in critical care unit for probably about 3 days. Then they moved him to ICU for a couple days. And then he got in his own room for about 3 days. He was in the hospital over Christmas time. So this was like shortly before Christmas when it happened. But he survived. He came through. And he was on cholesterol lowering medication. He was basically told that he needed to change his diet because he really loved fried foods. That was Don's biggest downfall when it came to foods, was fried foods. He loved fried foods, and he loved butter and all sorts of things. He was also a very heavy smoker, cigarette smoker. He had been smoking since he was 8 years old, and here he was 45. 5, 6, 7. So he had been smoking 37 years of his life, you know. He wasn't a heavy drinker. He wasn't an alcoholic by any means at all. We did like to go out and have a good time, you know, when we first got together, you know, and we didn't have no kids or responsibilities other than ourselves. We'd go out and party and go out to the lake and hang out with friends and drink beer and play frisbee, and we had our dog, so, you know, we would bring our dog with us, or we would go out to the clubs occasionally, or when we'd go out to a nice restaurant, we'd have a nice bottle of wine or something, you know. So it wasn't like we were consistently drinking, only on certain occasions. So alcohol wasn't a problem for Dawn. When Dawn and I first got together, we smoked pot. But then we gave it up in August of 96. We both quit smoking pot. And I think Dawn probably dabbled in it here and there occasionally still. But it wasn't like something he did on a daily basis, like when we first got together. He wasn't addicted to any other kind of hard drugs or anything like that. His main issues was just his food intake, the types of food he ate, and his smoking was his downfall. 10 months after he had the heart attack, well, I would say probably about 8 months after he had the heart attack, he moved back to southeast Oklahoma to be near his family because he wasn't going to be able to work again because of his heart problems and heart disease. And his aunt knew a few people in higher up places, so to speak, and she was going to try to get him on Social Security disability. So he moved back down there to be with his family. So he was probably about 3 hours from me and Kelsi, 3.5 hours from us. Me and him got back together in August of 2002, and we were making a commitment to try to make it work and eventually get back underneath the same household, so we could raise our child and move on with our life and possibly have another baby. That was our plans. But life doesn't always work out the way you plan it. And in October of 2002, Halloween, we had all these plans made for Kelsi and all that. And was really looking forward to, spending some time together. And I was the last person he spoke to. We were talking about our plans in the upcoming couple of days. And that was the last time I talked to him. I had a dream that night that he was basically telling me that he loved me, he loved Kelsi, and that everything was going to be okay. Next day, I get up, I do everything I'm supposed to do. I go to work, come home that night from work, and I have a message on my answering machine from his aunt. Basically, she was pretty hysterical, freaking out, saying, Dawn's gone, Dawn's gone. It took me a couple minutes to realize what was going on while listening, and I was like, oh my God. So I immediately dove for the phone, called. His uncle picked up the phone and basically told me that they couldn't get in touch with him all day, and his cousin had a spare key after she got off work, went over there to check on him, and she found him in bed, and he had been passed away. Autopsy reports showed that he had probably been dead for about 13 to 15 hours by the time they found him. And that would have put it at the time frame that he had been in my dream earlier. So everything sort of made sense. But yeah, he passed away at the age of 45 on October 30th of 2002. Our daughter was 3 years and 8 months old, exactly. And it was 30 years ago today that I met that man that gave me that beautiful girl that has in turn given me 3 beautiful grandchildren. So if I had anything to say, thank you, Dawn. Thank you for coming in my life when I needed you and showing me the kind of love I needed at the time that I needed it, and for giving me the gift of Kelsi that I could carry with me and have a part of you with me until the day I die. So thank you, Dawn. Thank you for coming into my life at the right time. Because when something's meant to happen, it happens the way it happens. And it usually happens when you're least expecting it. Because the day that I met Dawn 30 years ago, nowhere in my mind was I thinking that I was going to meet the man that was going to be the future father of my daughter, you know. Anyways, peace, love, hugs, nugs, all that good stuff. That's just another excerpt of Candy, a.k.a. Brown Eyed Girl 69's life. I've got many more stories to share. I've got plenty of experiences in this almost 56 years of living I've done here on Earth. Much love. And if I have anything else to share, I'll make a video and I'll share it. And until then, peace.